Alex used to say it casually, not angrily, not emotionally, just casually. Life's unfair. He said it when his alarm rang early, when bills arrived on time, but opportunities didn't. When he saw someone else win at something he had worked hard for. It became his explanation for everything. Missed chances. Life's unfair. Slow progress. Life's unfair. Someone else getting ahead. Of course they did. Life's unfair. One evening, Alex was standing in line at a small grocery store. Nothing special. Just one of those quiet, forgettable moments. Ahead of him, a man around his age was laughing on the phone. "Yeah, I didn't expect it either," the man said, "but I took the risk. Guess it worked." Alex looked away, not because he was jealous, but because something inside him felt tired. On the walk home, he passed the same streets he always did. Same buildings, same lights, same routine. That's when the thought came again. No matter what I do, it won't really change. This time, it didn't feel angry. It felt settled. And that was the dangerous part. Because when a thought feels settled, you stop questioning it. Alex didn't realize it yet, but he wasn't trapped by his situation. He was trapped by a single idea he had been repeating for years. And soon, life was going to challenge that idea, quietly, without drama, by asking him one uncomfortable question. What if life isn't unfair? What if you've just been thinking about it the wrong way? The next few days felt normal. That's what bothered Alex. Nothing big happened. No sudden failure. No surprise success. Just the same life continuing quietly. At work, he finished his tasks, closed his laptop, and went home. He did what was required. Nothing more, nothing less. Because in his mind, trying harder didn't make sense anymore. What's the point, he thought, if outcomes don't really depend on effort? One afternoon, his manager asked if anyone wanted to stay late to help with a new project. Alex didn't raise his hand. Not because he couldn't do it, but because a familiar thought appeared instantly. Someone else will get the credit anyway. Later that evening, he met his friend Mark for coffee. Mark talked about a mistake he had made recently. A decision that almost cost him his job. But it forced me to rethink everything, Mark said. I realized I was blaming luck instead of my choices. Alex nodded, but the words stayed with him longer than he expected. That night, while lying in bed, he replayed moments from his own life. Times he didn't apply, times he stayed quiet, times he chose comfort over risk. Not because he was scared, but because he had already decided the result. Life's unfair. That belief had saved him from disappointment, but it had also slowly trained him to stop participating. The next morning, something small happened. On the bus, an old man dropped his wallet. People noticed. No one moved. Alex stood up without thinking and handed it back. The man smiled and said, "Thank you. Most people don't bother." It was a simple moment, but as Alex sat back down, a strange thought crossed his mind. I didn't know that would happen. I acted, and something changed. It wasn't a big win. It wasn't a life lesson, but it was uncomfortable, because it didn't fit the story he had been telling himself. For the first time in years, Alex felt a crack in his belief. And cracks, if you don't ignore them, let light in. Alex couldn't stop thinking about that small moment. Not the wallet, not the thank you, the feeling. He hadn't planned anything, hadn't calculated the outcome. He just acted. And something shifted. The next day at work, the same project was mentioned again. The one he had ignored. This time, he hesitated. The old thought showed up on time, like it always did. It won't matter. But right behind it came a new one, quieter, unfamiliar. What if I'm wrong? That question made him uncomfortable. So uncomfortable that before he could overthink it, Alex raised his hand. I can help, he said. Nothing dramatic happened. No applause, no instant reward, just work, extra hours, confusing tasks. Moments where he felt stupid asking questions. More than once, he thought, see, this is why I don't do this. But he stayed. Not because he suddenly believed life was fair, but because he wanted to test something. Over the next few weeks, Alex started noticing patterns he had ignored before. People who moved ahead weren't luckier. They just stayed in situations longer. They didn't wait until things felt fair. They acted before they felt certain. Alex realized something uncomfortable. Calling life unfair had protected him from embarrassment, from effort that might not work, from trying and being seen failing. That belief hadn't come from truth. It came from fear, dressed up as logic. One evening, Alex stood in front of the mirror and said something out loud for the first time. Maybe life isn't unfair. Maybe it's just responding. The words felt strange in his mouth, but also honest. And once that thought took root, he could no longer unsee it. Because every time he showed up a little differently, life answered a little differently too. A few months later, Alex was walking the same streets he had walked for years. Same buildings, same lights, same city. But it didn't feel the same. Not because life had suddenly become easy. Not because everything was perfect. But because he was no longer standing outside his own life, judging it. He was inside it. The project he had joined didn't change his life overnight. It didn't make him famous. It didn't solve everything. But it changed him. People began to include him in conversations, not because he demanded attention, but because he was present. Opportunities didn't appear magically. They showed up quietly, in moments where he used to step back, and now stepped forward. One evening, while cleaning his desk, Alex found an old note he had written years ago. Life's unfair. He looked at it for a long time. Then he smiled, not with regret, but with understanding. He finally saw the truth. Life was never against him. It was neutral. It reflected his thinking. When he believed effort didn't matter, he stopped giving it. When he believed nothing would change, nothing did. But the moment he changed one thought, maybe my actions matter more than I think, life responded differently. Not loudly, not instantly, but steadily. Alex didn't become special. He became responsible. And that changed everything. Because sometimes life doesn't change when circumstances change. It changes when the story you tell yourself finally does.